Numbers 4 through 7 on the study guide. Each asks us to evaluate the limit as x approaches infinity or negative infinity. We do them all the same way, unless there's this square root that has one other little rule that we'll talk through here. But whether it's approaching positive or negative infinity only matters if there's a square root in the graph. So number 4 asks for the limit as x approaches negative infinity of this divided by that. So what we're going to do is check the highest power of x. The highest power of x anywhere is x to the third. So we are going to divide the x to the third coefficients. So we're going to take 15 and divide by -3, which gives us -5. We only do this if we are evaluating the limit as x approaches infinity or negative infinity. Number 5. Highest power of x. We're looking at it as two separate things because I have this minus that. So I'm going to evaluate the limit as x approaches infinity of this part, the limit as x approaches infinity of this part, and then subtract those two answers. So this part here, the highest power of x is 1. So we do 5 divided by 1. Over here, the highest power of x is also 1. I don't have any x to the firsts on the top, so I'm doing 0 divided by 1, which is 0. 5 minus 0 is 0. You can either do it this way or remember the rule for horizontal asymptotes. If the degree is bigger on the bottom than it is on the top, you get 0. This one over here, similar to the one we just talked about, highest power on the top is 3 and on the bottom is 13. If it's bigger on the bottom, it goes to 0 as x goes to infinity or negative infinity. Or you could work through it and say the highest power of x is 13. So I have no x to the 13ths on the top, and I have -3 of them on the bottom. Also gives me 0. We didn't have one that looked like this, but if the degree is bigger on the top than it is on the bottom, as x goes to infinity or negative infinity, this limit does not exist. Highest power of x anywhere is 4, so we do 1 divided by, I don't have any x to the fourths on the bottom, 1 divided by 0 does not exist. The ones with square roots, we start the same way. Highest power of x on the top is 1. On the bottom is square root of x squared, which is also x to the first. So we are dividing the coefficients. 16 divided by square root of 9. If x was approaching positive infinity, we would have 4/3. If it approaches negative infinity, we change the sign, and we talked about why we did that in class. I would just remember, if x is approaching negative infinity with a square root in there, we are going to switch the sign.